Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What is an estate plan? Should I have one? Do I need one? Why is it so important? What's the big deal? Oh, it's only for rich people. Oh, I already have one, so I don't need to look at it again. These are kind of common misconceptions, common thoughts about estate planning, common myths that we need to break. And as attorneys, we don't do a good enough job always of really stating the importance of why yes, you should have one, what it really is. And most importantly, which we're going to discuss in this video, what it can do for you. So today we're going to discuss 3 key benefits that you will get, not just you. And this is why it's so important. It's not just about you. You have to start it, but you're not the only one that can benefit, and you're not the only one that can do it. Okay. So 3 key benefits of why estate planning can benefit you and your family. And when I say your family, I'm not talking about just your immediate family. I'm talking about your family line. Okay, your bloodline is very important. And we're going to talk about those 3 reasons now. All right. And these are just 3. Again, I can go on about way more, but for the sake of our video, we usually just drill it down to 3 key points. So the first one we're going to talk about today of a key benefit of estate planning, what it can do for you, is it can provide a plan to pass down your property after death. Now, this may seem obvious, right? But people underestimate that because they don't want to think about death. They think it's morbid. It's too sad, right? It's too all of these things, too macabre to think about, dying. But it's a reality of life. It will happen. You don't know when. And so the best thing to do is to be prepared. That's what this is all about. It's not preparing to die. Okay. No, that's the misconception. But it is preparing in advance for when that time comes. So in advance can mean a month, it can mean a year, it can mean 10 years, it can mean 30 years, right? I think about myself, I'm in my 30s. Okay, my birthday is Monday, August 19th. All right, in my latter 30s now. And I'm not planning to go anywhere anytime soon, right? I'm thinking 60 years minimum, right? For a lifespan that I have left, minimum. It could be more. But that doesn't mean that I can't put things in place now for if anything happens between now and that time, because I just don't know when, right? But I'm always going to plan for the best. So it doesn't matter what age you are at the moment. Again, you can kind of go back to previous videos. There's a minimum age to start. It's 18, right? There are minimum requirements. 18 years of age when you're a legal adult, and a minimum mental capacity to know what you're doing, right? But you don't have to be 35 and married. You don't have to be 25 and fresh out of college. You don't have to be 55, 65, getting ready to retire, and that's when you start. No, okay? Because you just don't know when. And 65, if you're retiring now, don't do it expecting to go tomorrow, right? Oh, well, I'm retired now. It's time to go. No. 65, let's say, you know what? I'm going to live my second life. I left behind my job. I'm retired. I'm going to live a whole new life, right? But that doesn't mean you haven't accumulated things in those 60 years that you can pass down, and you can prepare for that now while you're still living your life out. Okay. So that's the idea. That's what brings me joy about it. As you can see, I'm not here talking like low and mundane, and that's not what it's about. Okay. So a key benefit, you can pass down property after your death because you just don't know when it's going to be. But you always plan to live it out like it's going to be a long time in advance so that you have time to accumulate even more and more. And so that the things that you are getting along the way, there's a plan for it as it goes. All right. And when it comes to property, I'm not just talking about like money and cars and jewelry and art, and all those things are very nice. But in specifically, I want to key in on land. Okay, land. Because it is traditionally, historically, the most valuable asset you can own. Now, we can talk about the benefits and the pros and cons of home ownership on another time. Okay, but I'm talking about land itself. All right. So whether it is a home, whether it is just a vacant lot, land. All right. Why? Because it appreciates in value. Land traditionally always appreciates in value, even among housing crises, even among economic dips. And I'll give you an example straight from my own family. All right. I never want to come here and not give you real life examples. All right. So back in 2008, we know what happened then. Recession. Okay. Back in 2008, I was 21, I think. I was getting ready to graduate college, my first degree. I was kind of prepping for law school, right? So I have things on the horizon. And my brother, my younger brother, was actually getting ready to graduate high school the next year. In 2009, he graduated. And so my father, who was alive back then in 2008, you would think, okay, well, I have a daughter that's in college. We're supporting her. She wants to go to law school. I have a son who's graduated from high school. Oh, he wants to go to college. Let's get ready for that. Which he did help with both, right? But what he did also, because we know that 2008 meant, right, the crisis, the Great Recession, all of that stuff was happening. In the midst of that, we know that the homeownership bubble crashed, right? The mortgage bubble crashed. So homes were flying off the shelves because they were just trying to get rid of it. They were overinflated, all this stuff. He bought an entirely new home right next to ours. Okay. Our longtime neighbor had passed away some years before. And since she passed, there were kind of people just moving in and out, in and out, in and out, but there was no stability there. And, it was all kind of different people. So people that would be have kids up in the middle of the night, crack a dawn playing. Trust me, I have all the stories. All right. And then you'd have, just people inviting people over and getting loud. Nothing ever like raucous or violent or criminal, but just, kind of noisy and a nuisance, if you will, in the neighborhood. So it was just in and out, in and out, in and out. Well, my father, right, with these two kids, one graduating college, about to go to law school, one about to graduate from high school, he went on and bought this house right next door to our home. And at the time, right, 2008, he bought it for $20,000. And this is an historic neighborhood in the city of Detroit. It's one of the most stable and economically viable and most valuable neighborhoods in the city. And there are, million-dollar mansions within parts of the neighborhood, right? And so it's a higher property tax base. Everything is very stable. It's very valuable. He bought this property for $20,000 as is, okay? And over the years, have been a little bit of work done, but it still hasn't been. It's a diamond with still a lot to polish off until it gets into pristine condition, okay? As is right now, fast forward, what is this, 2024, 16 years later, that home is worth 10 times easily. Right now, it would fly off the shelves for $250,000, okay? That's how valuable land is, that even in the dips, it will come back. The same house, pretty much untouched, right? In the historic neighborhoods, you have to keep the exterior the same. You can't change it without board approval of the historic commission. So we're talking about same house, all right? Easily 10 times its value, but that's how much land can appreciate. And that's how much more you can pass down to the next generation. So because of this choice my father made back in 2008, the land, the property is still in my family, right? And so it only adds to our collective wealth, our collective value. And that is the benefit, again, not just to yourself, right? Because he had it in his portfolio before he passed away in 2013, only 5 years later. And I'm sure he wasn't anticipating that, right, at the time he purchased it. But that's the benefit of really having some foresight and just getting the job done, planning out ahead of time. All right. So land, 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 land. We can talk about the pros and cons again of all that stuff because nothing ever comes without some kind of responsibilities, right? But is the reward worth it? In that case, I would say so. And if that's the case for you, probably. Okay. So it always appreciates in value. It's versatile, very versatile. All right. So we're talking about a residential property. So we can talk about a homestead that can be used for, children, grandchildren, other family members. Um, if we're talking about commercial property, you can house your own business there. You can rent out, you can lease, you can sell it at a later date, right? Excuse me. If you're talking about accumulating other properties like an apartment building, a flat, another residential single family home as rental and investment properties. We're talking about Airbnb, right? We're talking about, again, business rental opportunities, tenants. That's all economic benefits there. And then agriculture or home-based business. So, land is land. And what makes it so valuable too is if like there's good soil and everything, you can grow out there. You can grow, have your own garden, and there's limitless opportunities in a garden, okay? You get your own food, seeds, juices. I mean, that's a business in and of itself, right? Not to mention starting a home-based business out of your home that can then generate more income to buy more homes and just add and add and add and add. So there's so many benefits for it. All right. And then I have another point here that I think I might save for later. All right. So that's just number one. We're only talking about number one. We have three key points to get past, right? So number one is the number one benefit that we're talking about here today for estate planning, what it does for you and your family. You can pass down property after your death, and land is so beneficial to do that. All right. Excuse me. Second, that we've talked about in the last couple of videos, but we can go on and on about this as well. And I always want to repeat in case you're here for the first time and you're hearing it for the first time, but also just so that it'll sink in if you've heard it before. So the second key benefit is that you can plan to protect your property during disability. All right. So estate planning is not just for death, it can also benefit you in life. And that goes with tools like powers of attorney, which are only effective in life, and also with trust, which you can use to benefit yourself in life and use to benefit your descendants in death. Okay, so it's a very diverse tool as well. Excuse me. But when it comes to planning specifically, like for your disability, how estate planning can benefit you, you can provide healthcare instructions in a healthcare power of attorney. Why is this so important? So your family is not fighting and they're not grieving and they're not burdened to make the decision for you. All right. I'll give you another real life example here. And perhaps this is why I'm so drawn to this because, I had some of these same situations with my own family. So when my father was passing away in 2013, the whole family came together, and I was myself, my mother, my younger brother, and then my dad's two older children. It's my half brother and sister, if you will, right? All came together. We didn't all live together. So some of them came from out of town, out of state, right? To kind of say final goodbyes. We're there for a while. We're in the hospital. Okay. Now he didn't have a power of attorney or anything like that. And it was already a long day for me. I'll get into that sometime. It was already a long day for me. And here it is, middle of the afternoon. We have to make a decision about whether to keep him on life support or not. Okay. And I saw him, I was at home and I saw him get on the stretcher, right? And how they had to put him on there and take him out and just all this. I witnessed it all. Okay. Fortunately, my family unit was tight enough that we weren't fighting over what happened. We didn't want to make a big deal about it. And we really thought from what he would want. Like that was our intention. Okay. That's what you want because when you make your own plan, your intention is what will govern. Okay. And so collectively, since we didn't have it in front of us, we thought from his perspective. And that was such a blessing to myself and my family. But every family is not like that. And I deal with that in my practice constantly. Okay. Every family is not going to get along. So that's why it's up to you as a person who can make the decisions to make the decision so that you're not leaving it to your family to make the decision for you while they're grieving. You're not leaving it up to them and they don't all agree. And so you're just sitting there almost as a vegetable and they have to fight over what happens to you. I mean, there have been cases where it's had to go to court whether to keep this person on life support or not. Does spouse have the right to say so? Do children? Who is it, right? You can make that decision. And so this gets overlooked so much. But I put it out here right now as a key benefit of what estate planning can do for you. All right, but you have to make the choice to do it. Not just the choice, the decision to do it. Once it's a decision, you act on it and you get it done. All right. So that's just one. Is not leaving healthcare instructions up to chance. Second, under how estate planning can benefit you through disability, is appointing trusted individuals to act for you. Okay. And this is not only when sick or disabled, but when you're actually enjoying life, when you're traveling, when you're out of town, when you're on business and you have something left back home, you need to make a decision on it. You can have a power of attorney, financial power of attorney to take care of that business for you so that you are not physically burdened and have to be there. All right. And I have an example for this as well. But It's an example that didn't work because this person did not consult a competent and trusted attorney, but did it online. But had they consulted a competent and trusted attorney, the objective could have been fulfilled. All right. So person was away traveling on vacation, enjoying life, and was in the midst of selling their home and downloaded a power of attorney document online, named daughter to be power of attorney so that the transaction could go through. So that daughter could act in mother's place to sell the property, receive the funds, right? Do all the banking, everything that needed to happen. A power of attorney can do that for you while you are on vacation, living your best life. The only problem here was it was a rinky-dink little form and it was not legally valid. So this is again where the risk and reward has to pay off. Okay, yeah, you're saving money, you're not going to a lawyer, so you get a free little form, but it's costing you at least $100,000 you can't access and you cannot obtain because the form is invalid. Okay. Would you rather pay, let's say, $1,000 for an attorney to consult with you and get it done correctly so that you can gain $100,000? Or you rather download a free form online for free? You don't pay any money, but the end result is you hold up $100,000. This is the risk reward factor that you really have to take into consideration. So let's say you paid the attorney $1,000, you got $100,000. Minus the $1,000, you're still left with $99,000. Whereas, okay, you didn't pay anything, it's free, but you lose $100,000. This is the risk reward factor you really need to consider when you think about do-it-yourself forms online. Okay. So last point under planning to protect your property during disability, we talked about providing healthcare instructions. We talked about appointing trusted individuals to act for you, which was just the example we did. And I'm going to harp on this every week, and it avoids probate court. All right. Go back to the last two videos. We really went in on that. But having some kind of power of attorney provisions for you will avoid probate court so that your assets are not tied up in a court battle to determine your condition and who's going to act for you and whether the property can be sold. I've had this happen in court cases, and it's so heartbreaking where, if the power of attorney would have been done so much sooner or had been done at all, there would have been no need for court intervention. Property could have been sold right away. There wouldn't have been any court oversight about how money was spent and accounts payable, receivable, all of this stuff. If you want, again, a risk and reward factor. So let's say you paid an attorney, let's say $3,000 to have all that done. Okay. And you have a home that you want to sell. Again, homes are so important. Let's say you have a home that you want to sell for $100,000. Again, let's just use a nice round number. So you paid the attorney $3,000. You sell the home for $100,000. Your difference is $97,000. You still recoup $97,000. Okay. Whereas, let's say there is no power of attorney, so you didn't pay to do that. You saved all that money. You want to sell home for $100,000, but guess what? Now you're in court because court has to determine whether the home can be sold. It has to determine whether this person is able to sell the home, whether there's a competency issue. So not only are you paying court fees, which are mandatory, you're paying guardian ad litem fees, which are mandatory, and that's an attorney the court has to appoint to kind of see whether the individual is in their right mind or not, right? You're paying those fees. They're going to bill you right away. And that could be just $1,000 for first visit, all right? So you're paying money for something you don't want, and you can't even access the $100,000 because it's not even determined whether or not you can sell the house. And if you do, you might not even realize the proceeds. It might be another court-appointed attorney that has been there to act for that person. So you see how the money is just evading you. It's going to the court system. It's going to other attorneys that you didn't choose. Whereas if you chose your own attorney up front, you're paying a smaller amount up front, but you're getting so much more on the back end. Again, that's the risk reward factor that you need to determine, and that can benefit you. It's all about benefiting you and what's going to help you out the most. Okay. So that was the last point under planning to protect your property during disability. Under our 3 key benefits of what estate planning can do for you. Last key benefit, most important benefit of all of what estate planning can do for you is not just what it does for you, against what it does for your entire family bloodline. It can provide wealth for your descendants. All right. And I started this point here with trust fund babies are okay. I know there's this big negative connotation, right, in society about trust fund babies. Oh, they didn't work for it, this, that, and other. But it ignores so many of the benefits that are available to lift unnecessary burdens from the next generation. Why would you place a weight on someone's shoulders that they don't have to carry? They don't have to carry it. Instead, take the weight off and use it as a foundation for them to build on. Stop putting it on their shoulders every generation. And then that cycle just continues. Don't do that. All right. And I understand some of the, well, they need to learn how to work for it. Yes, they do. All right. So it's most important then to provide instruction for them to keep the wealth instead of keeping the wealth from them. Show them how to use it, how to do it. If it's a home, show them how to be a homeowner. I'll give you another example again from my own family. My father, when he was alive, right, was a handyman. Well, he was a lot of stuff. Okay. Very intelligent man. He was college educated. He worked for our local county here. He was a law enforcement officer for 35 years before he retired. I think he was a county sheriff, but he was also very good with his hands. He was a licensed mechanic here in the state of Michigan, and he did a lot of home repair. Okay. And I don't know where I was. Maybe I was just so focused and in the books that I missed all this, but apparently he passed on a lot of that knowledge to my younger brother. All right. About fixing sinks and plumbing and hardwood and drywall and all of this stuff. So guess what? Now my brother used that knowledge to invest in other properties. He's a real estate investor. And, a lot of the things he did, he was able to do for himself. He was able to put in, carpeting, drywall, fixing up things. And that benefited him because he was able to get properties at a lower cost that he could put repairs in to himself. So that saved on labor costs for him. Okay. And then lowering that was able to get him more properties accumulated, rented out. And then he's able to use the money to actually hire labor. So he's not the one physically using it and doing it. So do you understand how passing on instruction is wealth and is teaching others not just to be responsible with their own, but to use it in other places, right? And just capitalize on it. Okay. This is the importance of knowledge and wealth. So rather than, shunning the next generation, oh, you don't know how to do it, or chastising them for being wasteful, show them how to use it and how to do it. Those skills, life skills, are some of the most important things you can teach them. That is wealth. They can use that to create wealth. Again, my brother, I just gave you that's a real life example. He's a real estate investor. And that's not all he does. That's one thing he does to get money and he enjoys. Okay. When it comes to like baking, this was something that passed over me. I never was a kitchen person. I'm getting into it now, but I just was always in the books and I'm doing what I want to do. That's fine. But baking, cooking, like these are such important life skills that you can build entire businesses out of. I mean, come on, when you travel, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to eat the local cuisine. You want to see what the best food is in town to get, right? That's all a skill, all right? You just institutionalize it and you leverage it for longevity in a business, all right? And when it comes to property, again, teach them how to use the property, how to be a responsible homeowner, how to use the money correctly, all right? Rather than just keeping it all away from them. Oh, they're irresponsible. Teach them to be responsible then. All right. Teach them to be responsible. That is wealth also. And, I'll say this story here. I say it a lot. It lifts the burden because they don't have to, again, restart the wheel every cycle, every generational cycle. So just one more story before I get into kind of the ultimate benefit into this. All right. And I told this story a few times before, but about 15, 20 years ago, I know of a case. This is a real life case that happened of a young mother at the time, actually, only 45 years old, passed away tragically, suddenly, left behind a 12-year-old child, right, a minor, had a house, okay, owned the house. Minor was taken care of. So child is the priority. Okay, so minor had a guardian appointed who later adopted as their own child. And it was aunt. Okay, so aunt now became adoptive mother. But there was no probate work for the house. So the house was allowed to sit and you don't pay taxes on it. It's allowed to foreclose. So the state took over. Eventually, some years later, knocked the house down. It's just a vacant lot. Well, guess what? Child grew up, child got married, child had a child of their own, had to buy their own house, be saddled with their own mortgage debt, in addition to all the other things of keeping house, rather than this entire home that could have also been saved and preserved for the child. And not only was it a home, it was a two-family flat. So child could have lived in one and rented out the top, or child could have rented out both and used money to buy their own home, whatever it was. But that opportunity was lost. It was missed because there was no plan. There was nothing there. Nobody cared for it enough to keep it. Not saying that, wickedly or they did it intentionally. Obviously, the child is a priority, but do you see how this benefits the child also? Why it's just as important? Okay. So that leads to the last and most important part of what estate planning can do for you, how it provides wealth for your descendants, is the generational benefits. It provides so much more opportunities for those coming after you. All right. It is a safe haven. So if it's the family home can stay there and you always know you can come back. Even if you leave, you go to college, maybe you get married, you get divorced, you don't have somewhere to go, you're on tough times, the family home is always there. All right. And then it provides an opportunity, a lot of opportunities. So first one I'm going to get into is after a certain time, and these are more advanced techniques. I'm not gonna say that's what this is about, but hey, it's out there, it's available. And it applies for a lot of homes. Where I'm at here in Michigan, in the city of Detroit, a lot of family homes. Once the mortgage is paid up, the house is valuable. You can tap into the equity. All right. Provided again, you know how to do all these things and you're wise enough to use these tools. That can take care of college without loans, without burdensome student loan debt. Maybe you do, you take an equity line out and you invest in a business or another property and you just let the money keep making money. Okay. So it cushions against risk when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to business ownership, when it comes to investing. You can tap into so much with this one foundation. Again, taking the weight off and using it as a foundation for them to keep building. All right. And I know a lot of people are concerned about wastefulness, but guess what? You can have guardrails against wastefulness. So it just depends on how you structure your plan, but there's always things you can put in place. Is it always going to be foolproof and exactly executed how you wanted it? No. Okay. No. But that doesn't mean that your wishes can't be fulfilled. All right. I have a case right now where there was a will. There was a very specific way in how a property was to be distributed. But adult children, some of them just don't want it anymore, or they wanted their other brother to have most of it because he had been taking care of it already anyway, right? Adults, children, they grow up, they live their own lives, they have their own things going. Even if they think this may be an opportunity, it's not for them at this moment. Or, it's just not an opportunity that they're actually interested in, they think can benefit them. So they allowed their shares to go into one brother's piece. So one brother now has a majority share, and there are two other brothers that have a smaller share. And there was a contention about, oh, well, it's supposed to be split equally each way. Well, it was. It was. But, children grow up and they don't want the same things anymore. That's like saying, well, I bought this Barbie toy for you. You have to play with it. But I'm 35. I don't want it anymore, right? And I'm not 35, but I'm just saying, you just outgrow it, or it just doesn't become for you anymore, right? So is it always going to be the perfect plan you desire? No, but can it still work in an effect in the way that you intended? Yes, it can. All right. So you can put up guardrails for wastefulness. All depends on how you structure the plan. But you can put in, especially in a trust, you can put in necessary provisions and guidelines on when and how to handle the wealth. You can put age restrictions in there. You can put monetary restrictions in there. You can put some very specific provisions, like what it's to be used for, college, things like that. As long as it's not something that is going to be against public policy or just something so detrimental to society. Okay. No hitman clauses, nothing crazy like that. But you can put in those guardrails in place so that you know that not only is my child or whoever it is going to benefit from this opportunity, but I'm going to ensure that they don't waste it. All right. And this is how I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. So that's our video for today. I hope it has been helpful for you, what estate planning can do for you. If it has been helpful, please do like, share, comment. Let me know what other feedback you want to hear about it, or how it was able to help you. Share it with your network, subscribe. We're here every Thursday. Today is August 15th. We will be here again next Thursday, August 22nd, same time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right. So until then, take care.